We're talking with Cindy Blackman Santana about Give the Drummers Some, new album just out a few days before recording this interview, and gave it a listen. It is chock full of all sorts of music. There are a few themes, at least from what I've gathered, listening through each of the songs. With the diversity of all of this genre, how would you describe the ultimate message of this album?
Ooh, ultimate message. That would be one, and there are just three parts to it. One is to have fun. Two is to grasp the messages that are in some of the songs. And three would be to open up your mind to the creative process.
When did you first think of doing the songs for the album? Because by my understanding, this is kind of built over time. What was the first time when you went, okay, I want to actually put stuff down to virtual tape, if you will, and start creating a whole album's worth of material?
It was about 3 years ago, and I just felt that it was time for me to record because I hadn't recorded in a while. And so the album definitely got shaped as we went. And it took a while to do it because everybody was on tour. We were on tour, and so we would come in and record a little bit, and then have to go back out on tour and come back and record. Have to go out, So it took a little while to put it all together, but it came out in a great way. So I'm really happy.
And again, the certain types to this. There's, the fun songs. There are the songs with maybe a particular message for our time right now. Listening to a song like social justice, for example. There's some more, for lack of a better term, jazz songs. Like when Miles Away comes right on, and I'm going, oh, okay, we're getting right back into her jazz background here. So you were describing the themes earlier on a couple minutes ago, but how did each one kind of come as you're doing this? Did you sort of set to do this approach and this approach and this approach? How did it kind of come organically? How did that come in the whole timeline of the process?
Both, because there were things that I thought of that I wanted to put and add and do, and then there were things that just happened organically, because of the mix of people, because of the chemistry, a lot of the chemistry, when I went in the studio to do the vocals with Narda Michael Walden, those things were very organic because we just got into the studio and just started doing writing sessions, and then it just flowed from there. And with the instrumentals, a lot of that was organic too, because we'd get into the studio and maybe I brought an idea, maybe we just started playing, just to find things and to get a center. So a lot of it was very organic and then shaped.
Especially on those instrumentals, do you find that that's more of a kind of arrange it and go in and do one take? Do you do multiple takes with whatever particular ensemble you have? And I'm thinking especially with maybe, the variety of pieces on this. So let's just say all of the instrumentals on this album. Did you find that to be more of a let's go in and do a take and see what develops? How is the construction of those?
A lot of them were just one take, Some of them we did a couple takes of, but, a lot of them we just did one take, like Black Pearl, we did one take of that. Twilight Mask, that was one take. We Came to Play was one take, So a lot of that we just, recorded right down, and then, there it was. If we needed to add something to it, we added, but, we just recorded it down. So, there was certainly an organic process in that as well.
Well, and there are cases to be made for both approaches of the do multiple takes, or as is often happens in the music industry, obviously a lot of artists are going to comp in, comp out, and assemble something perfectly. Then there's the approach of, like you just said, go in, one take, what comes out is that's the feel there. Do you have a preference one way or the other? What's your take on takes and having the impression as it comes out, kind of the flow of creativity versus let's fine tune this and get the right product to put out to the public?
I like both, because certain songs lend in certain moods and certain atmospheres, and certain musicians lend to either. So I like both. I like the spontaneity. I'm a jazz musician, so I love the spontaneity of just going in and playing something and getting it down, and doing that. But then sometimes, you want to hone in on something, and that's okay too. Because I was in the studio one time with Carlos, and we were recording with Wayne Shorter, and Wayne made an incredible comment. He says, "You know what? I want to do that solo one more time because we're making a movie here. I want to refine my story. I want to add something to my story. We're making a movie." And I was like, wow. I never thought of it like that. And he's right. You're making a movie. You have a story that you want to tell, that you want to share. So sometimes it needs you to go back in and do something else, and sometimes not.
And
it depends. To what's happening.
Yeah, especially someone like Wayne Shorter of all musicians. But I know. But it reminds me sometimes of when you would hear the alternate versions of certain songs, and I mean, the first one that comes to mind is like a Miles Davis or someone like that, and you hear these different solo takes, or a Coltrane. And again, I'm just going with the most famous names. You could apply it to anyone. But each one tells their own story. The solos are not identical. It's almost like you have like different types of movies, like a director's cut version and an alternate ending. They all are whatever the artist wants.
Absolutely. It's whatever the artist wants, whatever they want to put out to people, whatever it is that you want people to hear, And some music has mistakes in it. But that's okay, because it happened naturally. It's what happened in the moment, and it's honest. And then sometimes, you want to go in and clean up those mistakes, and that's okay, too, because that's what you want to present. So it depends. Different people have different personalities. I work with some people who want everything to be letter perfect. Some people, if there's a little blemish here or there, they're okay with it. It just depends. And it also depends on the type of music that you're playing as well.
And then you're singing. You mentioned that a little bit ago. And I was listening to the Sweetwater interview from very, very recently, and what Carlos was saying about hearing you singing and kind of saying, like, essentially, let's put this on tape. Let's make something of that. And reading about you going into singing on this album and preparing for that, and the thought crossed my mind of fellow just musicians from college and just people I grew up with, that oftentimes instrumentalists would be really good singers, but you wouldn't, their focus was more on instruments. I'm like, well, that doesn't really surprise me. And obviously, to each their own. Everyone has their own talents with regards to music and given musicians. How long have you been singing just on your own, or did you ever feel like you could actually record yourself as a singer throughout all the decades that you've been involved with music?
No. No, not at all. Because I'm a drummer, and regardless of how many songs I sing on, I'm first and foremost and always a drummer, That's my love. That's my instrument. That's part of my soul. It's part of my DNA, part of my makeup, is playing drums. I love it. I do like to sing because I love the sound of the human voice, I love that tone, and I love that expression. And so I sing around the house all the time, like a lot of people. I sing all the time around the house. I sing songs, I sing melodies, I sing solos that I love, that people play. I hear Miles' solo that I love it, and I sing with it. I sing the solo, or Wayne's solo, or Herbie's solo, or something, But it's not something, singing this much was never on my radar, actually. I thought maybe, at one point, I thought maybe I'll do one song here or one song there, but I never thought I would sing this many songs. So this is definitely something new, and certainly a surprise even to me.
How much work did you end up having to do to feel comfortable with what was ultimately being recorded?
You know what? At first, I was just going for it, just singing, and no training or anything. The song that I sang with on the Santana Isley record, I Remember, which is a song that I wrote. I had no training for that. I had no training for the first song that we did, from Party Splash. No training for Dance Party, which was just a little kind of dit-dat. It's not a lot of singing going on. But then I decided I needed to get a vocal coach. So my sister is a wonderful singer, really beautiful voice, and I asked her if she would coach me. And she says, well, I don't really do that, but our friend Kedison does. And I was like, oh, yeah, Kedison's a teacher. So I called her, Kedison Kai, and we started doing vocal lessons. And that was a big help because you need to know how to maneuver your voice. You need to know how to not hurt yourself. You need to know how to use your diaphragm and how to breathe and all these different things. And so she was very helpful. So that certainly has helped me. And then Narda gave me a lot of tips too, because like I said, I'm just like a novice singer. I'm not a singer. I still don't consider myself to be a singer. Although I like doing it. But yeah, I had to get some help for sure, so I could learn, and I'm still learning.
What was the thing that maybe was most unexpected in terms of learning more proper vocal technique?
I think probably the first time that I was ever able to hit a note and have it resonate in a big way and have it be perfectly in tune and perfectly full. There are a couple of times when I've hit a note like that, and I was like, whoa, that came out of me? I guess these lessons are working. I got to keep practicing. But the whole thing of using the voice and placement of the tongue and that's all. I was like, whoa, really? Okay, I guess I have to work on that. Working on diction and a way to say words and to make them come out with proper diction, but without making them sound stiff.
Mm-hmm.
There were quite a few things for me that were kind of a surprise, and but needed.
Well, and you mentioned Narada Michael Walden and all the singers he's worked with before, the legendary voices of pop rock R&B oeuvre, essentially. You had mentioned also in one of your interviews about how he would he could set you on a path. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the essence of what was in that interview. Did you have any sort of different path before you started working with Narda, and then he kind of guided you a little bit in a certain other way? What's the process of how he guides you as a producer?
Yeah, sure. I had a path, absolutely, because I had recorded more than half the record prior, and I've recorded other records, so I definitely had a path. But Narda is very good at making things have commercial appeal. I'm more the creative, if it's commercially appealable, great, and if it's not, if it satisfies my creative desires and needs, I'm happy. But Narda has a great way and knack for making things commercially appealable. So he certainly added that element. In terms of guiding my vocals, he's great with knowing how to breathe and where to breathe, what breath sounds are good, what breath sound sensuous and sound great, and which ones don't sound good and you don't want to have, which phrases to do the breathing on, which phrases should be long, which should be short, which notes should be long, which should be short, which should be accented, how you act. He's very good at that, But, to his tribute, he's worked with, the greatest of the great singers, Aretha Franklin and Whitney Houston, two of them. He's worked with some incredible people. So he really has a big ear, and he's very melodic. He was telling me about his upbringing, and his father brought him up on melody, So he was playing a lot of the things for me that he heard as a child, and that really trained and groomed his melodic sense. So he's really good with all that.
There's a whole other sense of melody from the guitarists, the wide variety. Obviously, Carlos is on this, but of course we got Vernon Reid, John McLaughlin. Kirk Hammett shows up on this album. It's an incredible mix. What if there's a kind of a short way? Because I'm sure if I just asked you to expound on each guitarist, you could probably go on for hours here. So to keep it short, within the next couple minutes, is there like a quick sentence or two that describes the essence of the four guitarists? In terms of, obviously, there's one pretty close to you, but in terms of the context of this album, maybe I'll put it that way.
Yes, absolutely. I am, this record is a representation rather of guitar heaven, because you have, incredible melody, tone and texture, ideas, innovation, feel, vibe, fire, passion. You have all of that. So these cats, they're like the greatest of the great. And you have two huge icons in Carlos Santana and John McLaughlin. And then you have two young lion icons in Vernon Reid and Kirk Hammett. So it's really got a vast array of guitar texture and guitarness, guitar heavenliness in this record.
The other thing I keep noticing with material that's released this year, and in some of the other artist interviews I've had with new albums coming out, are songs that seem appropriate for the current context of whatever we're going to call the whole thing of 2020. Now it's become a verb in effect, especially with songs that in many cases were written before more and more kept happening. I'm keeping it very broad because you can go into the weeds and everything, but there's so much that's happened. But yet there seems to be so much music that is speaking towards what is happening right now. And with you having put this album together over the past few years, not that like society was wonderful and then suddenly January 1st hit and then kaboom, it's been kind of building and building and growing. It's kind of that sense in our society. Is there any way that you see some of this music being, I don't know, for lack of a better term, prophetic is maybe the only word that comes to mind right now. But how would you describe this music landing right now in the autumn of 2020?
Some of it would be prophetic because we didn't plan it. We didn't know that this pandemic was going to happen as we were recording these songs. We had no idea. So some of them are just right on time in terms of the messages, in terms of the mood, in terms of the energy, in terms of the feeling. Like Imagine, of course. What an iconic message that song is. And we didn't know that this was going to happen. Social Justice, Changes in Your Hands. We didn't know that those songs were going to really be able to, be strong messages, in this period. They're strong messages for society in general, but we didn't know how needed messages are like that, when we started recording this. And, the creative aspects to inspire thinking, we of course we couldn't have known that. And just the songs to just let go and have fun and remember that life is good, that we have love, that we have fun, and that, people are inherently good at heart. Songs like that to just, let you unwind and dance and have a good time. We had no idea how poignant they would be, and we keep getting, even though the record just came out, we get a lot of messages about, how timely these songs are, and people are really thanking us for it, and so I'm grateful for that. It's a beautiful thing.
It's incredible what artistry can do. It's a worthwhile listen. Give the Drummer Some, the new album from Cindy Blackman Santana. Go check it out if someone's listening right now to this interview, to stream it, buy it, however to listen to it. It's definitely worth it. Cindy, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today, and all the best as you continue with this project and all sorts of other projects to come in the future.
Oh, thank you so much. My joy.